Did you want to wait for Councilmember Lemons? I'm sorry, what?
Live.
Yes, we are. Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order our Paramount City Council meeting for November 16th to order. If I can go ahead and get a roll call of council members, please.
Councilmember Aguayo.
Here.
Councilmember Guillen.
Here.
Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings. Mayor Olmos.
I am here. Can I get a motion to excuse Vice Mayor, please?
So moved, Lemons. Second, Aguayo.
We have a first by Lemon, second by Aguirre. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to City Council public comment updates, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have one public comment update from the November 2nd City Council meeting, and that was from Abelardo Jacobo. Mr. Jacobo requested a status update on the surveyor's report, his request for public records through the Public Records Act, and also copies of the site plan regarding the property at 14113 Downey Avenue. As a result of that, Planning Director John Carver emailed Mr. Jacobo on November 3rd, informing him that the legal description and the lot merger information that was submitted by a surveyor in 2017 will be provided to him as part of his Public Records Request Act, and that we're also working, we as staff is also working with a surveyor who will plot the property lines of the property and insert survey pins within the designated property lines. And we plan to do that in the next few weeks. Also, the site plan for the market project and detailed project construction plans are still in plan check process, and it's expected to take about 4 weeks to complete the plan check process for that. So once that's done, that's part of his Public Records Act request. Additionally, City Clerk Heidi Luce emailed Mr. Jacobo on November 3rd to release some of the records in response to his Public Records Act request, and that included records such as the parcel manager, the certificate of compliance for the parcel manager, and that contains the legal description of the property, which he's also asking for. The remaining records associated with his request are still being reviewed by the city attorney, and once those have been approved for disbursement, they will be sent over to Mr. Jacobo. And that concludes my update.
Thank you, John. Okay, you guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to public comments. Do we have any public comments at this time?
No public comments, Madam Mayor.
Via email, via phone call, nothing?
No, ma'am.
All right. There you go. That said, we're going to go ahead and move on to new business, but I think, John, do we have a subsequent item that you would like to add?
We do, Madam Mayor. A few meetings ago, I told you about the difficulty that we've been experiencing recruiting and hiring people, and it is just simply the sign of the times that we're in. As a result, the council was kind enough to approve some tools to assist us, and we're very thankful for that. It has allowed us to be a little bit more competitive in that regards. Currently, we're recruiting for the Director of Finance position. This is the second time that we've attempted to find someone for the retired Karina Lamb. It's a very important position, as you know, and that person manages the city's budget in addition to a number of issues. We are close to hiring a very qualified individual, but we need one tool to make us more competitive that would allow us to act swiftly and secure an experienced candidate for our executive team. We'd like to add this to tonight's agenda to request this tool, and it's required that all four of you vote to add it if it will be added to the agenda. And if we add it to tonight's agenda, we would propose to add it after item number 6.
Okay. So with that said, colleagues, can I go ahead and entertain a motion for us to go ahead and add this subsequent item to the agenda, please?
So moved, Lemons. Second, Aguayo.
All right, we have a motion by Lemmons and a second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to new business now. We have our first item, which is our resolution number 21037.
Yes, Madam Mayor. At the last City Council meeting, representatives from the California Municipal Finance Authority and from BLDG Partners, they gave a detailed presentation about the concept of middle-income housing and how this concept can be implemented at the Enclave Apartments here in town on Paramount Boulevard near the 105. The first item on tonight's agenda is a follow-up to that presentation. Leading up to that presentation, we did provide the council with information on this middle-income housing project through my weekly correspondence to you. So we're now very familiar with this idea. There's no doubt that it is a pretty innovative program in itself, and it will benefit the missing middle, and it pays pretty large dividends for the city in the long run. So tonight we are recommending the adoption of a resolution which will officially enter the city into a joint power authority in order to partner with CMFA for the project at the Enclave Apartments. The resolution that is before you tonight also triggers the approval of the agreements that are necessary to enter into this partnership with CMFA. And as you know, these agreements have been recently updated with relevant information. The blanks were all filled in, and that was provided to you earlier today. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant Planning Director, Mr. John King, who will walk you through the item. John?
Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Mayor Olmos and Council. So, John summed it up, in a nice package, and it's number 1 and 2 here about what we're doing with this resolution. Again, authorizing the execution of a joint exercise of powers agreement, setting us up with the CMFA to join this special finance agency and approving a public benefit agreement, and then approving the issuance of bonds for the purpose of this acquisition, which also funds the improvements of the Enclave Apartments up on Paramount Boulevard. And here's a recap. You'll recall, it wasn't too long ago, Ben Barker and Matthew Ellis, Mr. Barker from CMFA and Mr. Ellis from BLDG Partners, they gave a great presentation going over this concept, workforce housing, also known as middle income housing. John Moreno mentioned the missing middle. So as we're familiar with, we have the state has helped us out, and the federal government, with a lot of programs for affordability on the affordable level of housing. And then of course we have market rate housing. But it's the middle. It's those that really are in the middle, and as the costs of housing go up, it's more and more important for us to look at ways to help out what is termed the missing middle. And we have one type of these middle-income housing projects that was described last month, in which a city or a jurisdiction joins with a joint power authority to issue bonds for purchasing, improving, and making these types of properties very livable and update them every year. So that's before us now, and these units, again, would be restricted to middle-income households with restricted rents and restricted rent increases. You'll recall that there's not going to be a push, there will not be a displacement of existing tenants, but it'll be a natural turnover with the new restrictions. And here's an overhead view of the site. Everyone knows this area, but it's kind of interesting, the overhead look. 6 buildings. They're not very boxy. They have this really kind of a natural, kind of an organic look to them, and that was intentional. The council, in their wisdom in the 80s, thought we don't want the standard bulky, these blocky and bulky complexes. We want something with with amenities and a more of a natural feel. The property owner now, since 2019, is Enclave Pacific owner, and BLDG properties, they're negotiating the purchase through this program. And you'll see a little summary of the units, and there's a little over 300 units, a combination of 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. Here's some views, and these are some recent photos. remember for years and years, they were kind of a yellow color and kind of looked kind of tired. So this new owner, the current owner, they've been making a lot of investments in the properties. They painted them blue. They recently finished some ADA improvements, a lift at the front. So the upper right is their main entry, and you can see the rebranding as the Enclave. For years and years, it was the Century Apartments, I think. And so there's ramps, there's the lift, and they upgraded the facilities on the inside. They're working on in the units to have individual laundry hookups. And then CMFA, so to issue bonds for the project, the city would need to become a member of the Special Finance Agency. And the agreement provides that CMFA is as a public entity, it's separate and apart from each member, including Paramount as the city. So with that, it's very protective of the city. Debts, liabilities, and obligations would not constitute those of the agencies that are members, and bonds would be repaid through this 15-year term solely from CMFA funds. That limits city exposure by reason of membership. And the city attorney took a great extensive look and supports what we have today. So just an overview, the members would be CMFA and Paramount, and then you'll see joining some other agencies, and entering into this agreement and forming this new agency, just called the agency. In the project, the agency issues bonds to finance the acquisition and improvement of this housing development at the Enclave. And there's the public benefit agreement. This agency grants the city the right to cause the agency to sell the project to the city after the 15 years. So if bonds are issued next year, that takes us to 2037. At that point, then the city council would have to make a decision to continue as is, sell to an affordable housing operator, maintain this workforce housing level, or who knows, maybe change to affordable housing, or there's the opportunity to change it to market rate as well. Just a photo of how it looks now on the inside. So with the bond debt, the agreement provides that, again, bonds, debts are not debts to the members. And the one of the positives, how this all kind of works out on paper, is the property taxes. So as you can imagine, for a property of this size, this number of units, there's a very high property tax level. And as a tax-exempt public agency, this changes everything. Property taxes would not be required to be paid. But with that, we wanted to protect the city, and built into the agreements is what's called an annual host charge, in which the city has provided a comparable amount of property tax, so which is estimated about $76,000, more or less. And a little rendering from the 80s. A lot of words here, but basically this is saying that in the agreement, the operators would be required to set aside funds for annual improvements. So a whole, just say, laundry list of requirements, carpets and exterior landscaping, on and on. So this is a requirement. There's also a lot of language about the tenants. You remember our discussion about preference for new tenants, that they have some stake in the city or be employed by the school district or as a first responder. So that's in the agreements. And verification. So we want to make sure that this isn't just talk, that there is some type of verification system. So verification and compliance. So annually, middle-income households, they'd have to submit their verification, their tax returns, check stubs, to the manager. So with that, we do think this is an excellent program and an opportunity. A lot of protections are built in, and we recommend approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And as you may be aware, the same folks from the last meeting are in the audience for any specific questions.
Thank you, John. Colleagues, do we have any questions at this time?
I have one. Sure. My only question is, you know how we have trailer parks in the city of Paramount, but when somebody has a complaint, we have no jurisdiction over the trailer park issues. My question is, with us being part of this project, if somebody is complaining that the management isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, whether updating, fixing, do we have any authority to reach out to management and say, hey, these things need to get done? Or is it still the kind of the same as like the trailer parks? We don't really have any.
That's not the
issue.
case, and you're right. That is a terrible predicament that we've had for decades for trailer parks, manufactured homes. In this case, we are part of the ownership. We are in effect part of we're members, so we do have a a stake, a definite a stake, and that's why we wanted to make sure that all those requirements for upkeep are in there, and making sure that the tenants, we want a strong tenant base.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, John, I just have one question. So how is this like communicated, marketed to the community that this is available? What's the route on that?
That's something we'll be working on
Okay.
in the next year. Will be to the benefit of BLDG partners and the city to do a strong marketing campaign. And yeah, I can imagine with our public information officer and in conjunction with the school district, I think we've heard about we want to keep folks who live here and work here to stay here, and that's in our housing element. That's the philosophy of the city.
So we'll have one. We'll
We'll
just
have that.
that'll
Yeah,
happen.
we'll be working on that in the long run.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I don't have a question,
Sure.
but I just would like to make a comment. I had a lot of questions about this project because it is unique and the first time that we've done something like this. And I just wanted to actually thank Mr. Garza for spending quite a bit of time with me and explaining some of the uniqueness of this program and how it comes in to play, and to say that I think that we have a very special opportunity here to do something very unique for our city, and we never know how long things like this are going to be allowed, funded, or available. So appreciate it being brought to us, and thank you, Mr. Garza, for all the time you spent with me today. Thank you.
All right. With that said, colleagues, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for this, please.
I'll move the item, Lemons.
Second, again,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second.
Lori.
All right.
Again.
All right. So we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Councilmember Guillen. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Thank you, everybody who was involved in this. We're excited. All right. Next item is ordinance number 1155.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. After a routine review of the city employment policy and how it coincides with our municipal code, the city's attorney's office has determined that there were some inconsistencies in our municipal code with state law, particularly as it pertains to hiring relatives of city council members. In short, the city attorney's office has determined that our municipal code definition of consanguinity really conflicts with the California Fair Employment and Housing Act. So as a result, we're recommending some amendments to our code as provided by the city attorney's office. And here's our HR manager / assistant city manager who will handle the item. Andrew, or HR director, I should say. Got to get the titles right.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. The following item is more of a housekeeping item, but important nonetheless. So I'll try to go over just kind of a brief overview of what we're recommending this afternoon in accordance with the recommendation from the City Attorney. So Title II of the Paramount Municipal Code addresses the city's administration and personnel system. Section 2.16020 provides definitions of the city's personnel system and was last modified in 1987. One particular subsection of the chapter establishes parameters for the degree of kinship or descendants that relatives of the city council members may be employed by the city. This definition is known as consanguinity. During a routine review of the city's policy, staff discovered that the definition of consanguinity is in section 2.16 of the municipal code conflicts with the city's personnel manual for employees regarding nepotism. The city's personnel manual is the administrative policy guide for all city employees, as you know, implemented by the city manager, where the municipal code is typically the document or the regulatory document that guides policies and procedures generally for the city council. The city's policy on nepotism addresses the importance of assessing the employment of relatives based on the business necessity relating to supervision, safety, security, morale, and the public's trust in the agency's merit-based employment system. Furthermore, it is the policy of the city not to discriminate in its employment and personnel actions with respect to its employees, prospective employees, and applicants on the basis of family relationships. As John mentioned, staff consulted with the city attorney, who determined that the Paramount Municipal Code definition for consanguinity is overly broad, outdated, and contrary to the state's Fair Employment and Housing Act regulations as it pertains to discrimination. As a result, the city attorney's office is recommending that section 2.16020 of the municipal code be amended as described in your staff report this evening. The main takeaways, though, I think just kind of looking at it holistically, is just a couple of things. It narrows the degree of lineage defined in the municipal code from 4th degree to 2nd degree to reduce the ambiguity and overbroadness and to better apply the Fair Employment and Housing Act regulations. Where there is any language referencing an absolute termination or anything thereof, an employee or anything related to that, I apologize, the city is still required to apply the regulations set forth in the Fair Employment and Housing Act. So in practice, the updated language enables the cities to apply an objective, practical approach in accordance with the FEHA, requiring the city to assess every instance of a relative of a city council member employed by the city on a case-by-case basis. Again, updating the municipal code will align with the Fair Employment and Housing Act regulations and the city's employee policy on nepotism, which is the following. Our policy aims to prevent relatives of employees from being employed in any position where there is potential or where there is a potential for adversely impacting the safety, security, morale, or efficiency of supervision or function of other employees, in which there may be created an actual or a potential conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest. So with that, it's recommended that the City Council read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce Ordinance Number 1155 and place it on the December 14th, 2021 agenda for adoption. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Andrew. Is there any questions for Andrew? I'm hearing none. All right. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1155, and place it on the December 14, 2021 agenda for adoption.
So moved, Lemons.
Second, Aguayo.
Motion by Lemon, second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, guys, we're moving on to the next item, which is an approval of a overnight pilot parking program on Orizaba Avenue between Rosecrans Avenue and House Street.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of years ago, you may recall the City Council formed a parking committee that was tasked with examining our parking challenges that face individual neighborhoods and also with coming up with possible solutions to these parking issues. The next item is a possible solution to a parking crunch in one of our neighborhoods that's in the north end of town off of Paramount Boulevard north of Rosecrans. In this case, we're recommending, as you'll see in a minute, implementation of a pilot parking program that will allow overnight parking along part of a street that currently is designated as no parking, and it was designated to provide additional lane width. And this idea was brought forth at a recent community-wide parking committee meeting, and they recommended that we bring it to you for your approval. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, to handle the item. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, as you may recall, and as John indicated, the City Council established the Community-Wide Parking Committee back in 2019 to look at parking issues citywide. Specifically, they were tasked to look at short-term as well as mid- and long-term parking strategies. In doing so, they were asked to incorporate quality of life issues, public safety, and of course, parking equity. The last focus area the Citywide Parking Committee reviewed was the area east of Paramount Boulevard, north of House Street. Residents of the single-family homes that are located north of House Street expressed concerns that residents that are residing in the multifamily dwellings located south of House Street on Orizaba who are forced to park in that northern area, given the fact that parking is not available on the east side of Orizaba, as John has indicated. That area is indicated on your screen by that arrow, again, north of Rosecrans to Howe on the east side. This street is narrow, and parking is currently allowed on the west side of the street only. The east side is posted as no stopping any time to allow for north and southbound traffic flow. There are a number of multifamily residential properties on this section of Orizaba which require driveway access for parking accessibility. So we challenge our city engineer to come up with an outside-the-box strategy that could be implemented here in order to allow parking, at least in the non-peak overnight hours. So this pilot program would do exactly that. It would allow parking on the east side of the street from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Red curb markings will have to be placed around driveways in order to create vehicle bypass areas, and that is depicted here in the image on your screen. By doing this, we can create approximately 35 additional parking spaces to be used by residents in the area at night. As indicated previously, we have a number of multifamily properties on this segment of Orizaba, and by placing the red curve markings near existing driveways, it would allow for vehicle bypass areas during non-peak hours when the traffic flows are reduced. As mentioned, the Community-Wide Parking Committee reviewed this item at their meeting in August and September. And in September, they recommended approval of this item to the City Council. If approved by the City Council, Public Works will proceed with the purchase and installation of the new signage for the east side of Orizaba from Rosecrans Avenue to Howe Street and paint the necessary red curve markings. We will then reevaluate the effectiveness of this pilot program in 6 months and make any necessary modifications. With that, it is recommended that the City Council either approve or deny the overnight pilot parking program on Orizaba Avenue between Rosecrans Avenue and Howe Street. That concludes my presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Adriana. Do we have any questions for Adriana? No questions, comments? Nothing for you tonight, Adriana. That was a good presentation. All right, with that said, you guys will go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
I'll move the item. Lemons.
Second, Ian.
Okay, I have a motion by Lemons and a second by Guillen. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, next item is resolution number 21035, approving applications for specific grant funds.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. You may recall that we received $1.25 million this year as part of the state of California's budget. The money came to us via Assembly Member Speaker Anthony Rendon. I previously mentioned to you that this money wouldn't be available until the state develops their process for obtaining funds. That's now been done, and the resolution before you tonight is the first step in that process. And here's our Community Services Director, Mr. David Johnson, who will walk you through the item. Dave?
Thank you, John. Mayor and council members, as John mentioned, this is from Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon, who placed this funding allocation in the state's FY22 budget. That does provide the city $1.25 million for the city to apply to improvements or acquisitions for community facilities and park and or recreation facilities. So Resolution 21035 before you tonight authorizes the submittal of applications to expend these specified grant funds. These grant funds will be managed by the State Department of Parks and Recreation, and this resolution is required for them to initiate the grant process. Grant contract process, my apologies. Specific uses of these funds will be identified for the City Council as we go through our mid-year budget review process. This was a similar process that we did a couple years ago when specified grant funds were allocated to the City of Paramount through the state budget process. These former grant funds were used for improvements at the Village Skate Park, Progress Plaza, and the design work for the upcoming Paramount Park pool improvements. It is recommended tonight that the City Council read by title only and adopt resolution number 21035. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Do any questions for David? Hearing none, the council has no questions tonight. You guys are just kind of breezing through. All right, with that, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
That's great staff reporting.
That's right. There it is.
So move, Lemons.
Second Aguayo.
We have a motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, guys, moving on to item number 5, which again is a receive and file report on proposed professional design services by Studio 111 for Progress Plaza exterior design.
Well, there's no doubt Progress Plaza has further cemented the notion that this is our premier facility. We recently completed interior improvements, and it looks fantastic. Now we'd like to proceed with exterior improvements to continue to make this facility more useful and usable by the public and by our community groups. This would also be in line with our just a general desire by society to gather outdoors more, to be outside more as a result of the pandemic. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Community Services Director, Mr. Johnson, who will walk you through the item. Dave?
Thank you, John. Mayor and council members. As John mentioned, we have made some wonderful improvements to the inside of the building, and now we're headed outside to see how we can make improvements there. The City Council did approve an allocation of $25,000 for exterior design work at Progress Plaza in the current FY22 budget. Whoops, let me get over there. Here we go. Progress Plaza is a highly used and highly visible city facility used for important private and public events. As the use of outdoor spaces became more important during the pandemic, we did envision that we had an opportunity to reimagine these outdoor spaces at Progress Plaza to continue to increase the use of these outdoor spaces for events. Because this is such a valuable space, we want to encourage the City Council to provide us any input that you would like to see with regards to these outdoor spaces. To that end, we reached out to Studio 111, which the city has used for our downtown streetscape design and bus shelter renovations, and they have done extensive design work for a variety of LA and Orange County cities. Studio 111 submitted a proposal in the amount of $25,000 to provide the required design services to create conceptual drawings and basic construction documents for the exterior improvements. The two areas that we'll be re-envisioning are the grass areas on the grass area on the east side of the building off the conference room, which on your photo there is to the right in red, and the grass area on the south side of the building, which is on the bottom, immediately adjacent to the wood structure outside of the sliding doors off the auditorium. As we meet and continue to work with the Studio 111 folks, we will look at any other additional spaces on that facility in the outdoor that might also require some improvements to make the space more accessible. Because these design services are being procured under Paramount Municipal Code Section 3.12.080, which does exempt professional and technical services from bidding requirements and is under the $40,000 threshold, this report is provided to the City Council for informational purposes. And once the design work is complete, we will present conceptual designs to you at a future council meeting for your input. And the recommendation is to, at the City Council, receive and file this report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor, if I may, I'd just like to add too, just to give you an idea what we're going to tell the design consultant, we like to look at like gathering areas in the two areas that you saw in the map that were outlined in red. You know, gathering areas, we're talking about like outdoor seating, permanent outdoor seating, possibly outdoor fireplaces, things of that nature to make it more useful, extended shade structures for the outdoor patios, maybe even a little bit more concrete so you could put more tables out there. Some of you that may have attended the Chamber of Commerce banquet, for instance, that we held out there, some of the tables were on the grass, some of them were, so to make that more usable, because people love the outdoors now, and there's a lot of unused space. So if you have any ideas, toss them at us, based on your experience going to Plaza. Now is the time so we can really let the designer that we're hiring to do this, and this again is in the budget, so we can give them ideas on what you want. So more useful, livable type of space, enjoyable type of thing. So throw it at us, and we'll throw it at him, and see what they can give. And again, this isn't the final. We'll bring you back, as Dave mentioned, the layout of what they're proposing so you can all see it. And then my plan is to bring it back to you after the design is done in FY23, which will be after July 1 for a full-on project to do that. So this is just the design phase.
Got it. Understood. Can I just say, too, I think the inside of Progress Park looks amazing. It looks so nice. I mean, compliments galore. People, like, especially the Paramount Women's Club, they're like, oh, my God, this place is like heaven for us. So it looks great. All right, you guys, so that was a receive and file. Thank you for that. Okay, we guys, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 6, which is an approval of revised program partner agreement for youth sports leagues.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As you may have noticed, since we implemented our very first program partner agreement with the youth leagues, we had some minor tweaks that may be needed from time to time. So we're recommending a few more of these amendments to the program partner agreement, and it's intended to create equity for the youth players and the coaches as well. So with that, I'll turn it over once again to David Johnson, who will handle the item. Dave?
Thank you, John. Mayor and council members. As John mentioned, we're looking at some additional tweaks to the program partner agreement. All the revisions that we're proposing tonight occur in Exhibit A of the program partner agreement. They include then providing a clearer definition of a recreation season, a prohibition on fees that get anything that would be charged to coaches, board members, or volunteers that run that league, and then a process for filing a complaint if they're unhappy with any decision that we might make. So the current definition that exists in the program partner agreement for a recreation season is defined as youth sports league, open to all abilities and with equal access to play. So these are all important aspects because obviously it's a city priority that we provide equitable and equal access for every child of any ability. And then the recreation seasons are the seasons that are defined as the only ones available for priority field use, and that they also receive funding through the Youth Sports Scholarship Program. So our proposed definition provides more defined clarity to deal with some issues that we've observed. Number one, the league needs to use the city to assist with making sure that the entire community finds out about the program. If they, again, just put it on their own social media sites, it doesn't get to everybody. The city has obviously greater access and greater ability to get the information out to the community, and so it needs to make sure that they use us for more open, consistent marketing of that league. In the same way, the registration has to be equal in terms of cost and regardless of ability and age to make sure that no one is being charged a different rate because of their ability or their age. In terms of registration, this needs to be for individual players in a recreation season, not a group or a established team. The idea, again, is for equitable and equal play. All registered players should be put through a blind draft that the coaches then are able to pull from that blind draft. And the idea here is through a blind draft, hopefully you'll have teams that are all fairly well balanced. And then the last one would be equal playing time per game per player. So we can avoid, they got some time, but they didn't play every game. The idea is that everyone gets to play when they arrive. They get to play every game. Every player gets a time on the field. The prohibition fees to coaches, board members, and volunteers, the leagues themselves need to be fiscally independent. They do this through the raising of funds through the registration fees and any appropriate fundraising they might do. However, we want to ensure that they are then not requiring coaches, board members, volunteers participating in that league, that they also then have to pay a fee to participate that way. The league cannot charge, as you know, any cost or any fee for use of the field, since we do not charge for field space to these leagues. What we're trying to do here is to avoid the appearance that someone is being charged for use of the fields. And the last item is a process for filing a complaint. Again, they're not always going to agree with some of the decisions that we make. So we do need to put something in the program partner agreement that does not currently exist to give them that process. What we've put down is that if they have an issue, they need to put that in writing to the community services director. That request or that issue needs to be acknowledged within 48 hours by the director. A written response is required within 3 business days back to the league. Now, if the league certainly doesn't agree with any response, here's where the process comes in. We would then set up a meeting with the Parks and Recreation Commission subcommittee on youth sports, and they would be the first persons to listen to the issue, listen to both sides, and recommend a decision. If the league does then not agree with that decision, the issue would then go to the full Parks and Rec Commission for review. And then again, as a final step, if again it cannot be resolved through this long process, it could be brought to the City Council for final resolution. The recommendation tonight is that City Council approve or modify the proposed revisions to the program partner agreement. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dave. Do we have any questions for Dave?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I was a little concerned about, I understand that every player needs play time, but who's going to determine that? I mean, I think the coaches are in the best predicament to determine who plays. I mean, you have the idea that everybody gets a ribbon nowadays. Everybody, gets and I get that everybody needs to be included. But whose job is it to determine who plays and when they play? I mean, at some point we have to let the coaches make a decision, right?
Correct. I mean, the coaches in the league obviously will determine, if you have 8 players on your bench, all we're requiring is that all 8 of those players get play time in that game of equal time. How the coach mixes that up, that is entirely up to the coach. The idea here is that I pay a fee that my kid does not ride the bench that season. That child gets equal play time. Now, when you get into this outside the recreation season, when they go into their all-stars or their travel or their club ball, that's where they get to do whatever they want. They can play the best players and then sit everybody else. That's what those leagues are for. The recreation league is for balance and equity.
So that would just be the recreational leagues that would apply to.
That is correct.
Okay. I just want to give the coaches, the ability to coach. And a lot of times, even if you don't play as much as somebody else, just being on a team, you're learning. Mm-hmm. You're learning about being a team. You're learning about, giving it your all with the time that you do have. You still learn, even though you don't get the same amount of exact time. So I don't know. I just feel like sometimes a coach is in the best predicament to make that decision. With that being said, you still learn a lot, whether you get the same amount of time or not. You still get the camaraderie. You still get the just being around other players and watching. You also learn the game, So anyway, my 2 cents.
Hey, Dave, really quickly. So when we add these recommendations, do the players have to get new agreements to sign, or are you amending and then they have to get new signatures?
On the program partner agreement?
Correct.
No, we'll just be providing them with the new Exhibit A, which is that's where all these changes are occurring.
Got it. Okay.
Madam Mayor, can
Sure.
I just get
Mhm.
clarity on something? As I've said many times up here, I am not a sports person. And so we had a lot of back and forth on this item. And just let me be clear, because of Councilmember Guillen's comment, that I understand this finally correctly. And I think that's what you just said. But when I was going to those that know, having similar thoughts to Councilmember Guillen and not understanding why, I understand that we have Parks and Recs leagues and we have competitive leagues, right? And so Parks and Recs are like all of our kids in the city and the ones that we pay the scholarships for if anybody can't play, and it's playtime. It's not competitive hard sports. It's so that everybody does get a chance to play. And then there's the competitive leagues where the coaches need to win the prizes and show the best players, and there they have that overall opportunity. So in light of that, do I understand that correctly? And is it the same coaches for both?
You understand that correctly. It's up to the league who coaches on the recreation side versus the competitive side. We're not involved in that.
Okay, so what we care about are the ones that kind of sign up for Parks and Recs programs. Their kids, they want them to play softball, they want them to play football, and then there's another whole genre of people that play competitive sports.
That's correct, and we're referring to it in the program partner agreement as the recreation season, which is their primary season, which for most of the leagues occurs in the spring, and then football it's in the fall.
So, like the complaints that we got from some residents that the coaches weren't letting their kids play, like sometimes they set out most, if not all, of the season, that what the parents need to know up front, and so are we doing some kind of education on that, is your child signing up for a Parks and Recs league or a competitive league, like, do they sign up for both through us, or when they sign up for competitive, do they do it with that team?
All registration goes through the youth leagues. It's their leagues. What we're dictating is that recreation season, these are the standards that you need to meet. Now, by the way, we also surveyed cities around us, and I kind of already knew the answer, but everyone runs a rec league this way. This is a standard practice. It's not uncommon. It is when you get to that competitive side that's when.
But you're saying, so how you kind of just broke it down for me, if I understand, is because there's a season when it's all Parks and Recs, and then there's a season when it's competitive.
You've got it absolutely right. Yes.
Learning every day.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. There's different
Okay,
seasons.
thanks.
So can I ask one question following up on that? So I guess my concern was if each player has to play a certain amount of time, my only concern was, what if you have a kid with special needs and they don't want to play, but they're still learning being a part of that team, and they don't want to play an equal amount. They maybe for whatever reason they're not having a good day and they don't want to. That's my reason for saying, well, the coach needs to have some discretion. Maybe another player is going to get more time because this one individual kid, whatever is going on in his life, he doesn't want to. So I'm just saying there always has to be a little leeway for discretion there.
Well,
He's
absolutely.
still, a kid with autism, right, still gets to be on the team, may not want to play, but he can still learn from the other kids being in that environment.
Absolutely. I mean, as if we come across issues that we deal with a parental complaint, that's certainly a consideration that's going to have to be made. But generally, if the parents agreeing that their child has special needs and didn't want to play, and that's why they aren't getting a lot of time, they're not going to complain. So this is based on, here's the standard that we've set. If we get complaints, we need to come to that league and say, what are you doing that's not allowing you to follow our requirements? Oh, okay, well, the kid doesn't want to actually hit the field. I get it.
Okay, as long as there's that, discretionary area. Okay, perfect, thanks.
Okay, so I think I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for this, please.
So moved. Lemons.
Second, Aguayo.
We have a motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, we're going to be moving on to our subsequent ad item.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This item involves approval, as I mentioned earlier, of a one-time recruitment incentive for the finance director position. As you're aware, as I mentioned, this is the second time we've conducted a recruitment for this position. It's been extremely difficult. We're facing a shortage of talent out there for this position, along with some pretty stiff competition from other neighboring cities who are also recruiting for this position. So approval of this recruitment tool will definitely assist us in landing a very qualified candidate for this extremely important position. And with that, I'll turn it over to our HR director / assistant city manager, Andrew Villalpando. Andrew?
Thank you, John.
Laugh.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. The following item is certainly a unique item, but I think as you'll see and as you've probably picked up on the last few months, it clearly affirms the current state of affairs in this very competitive labor market. The Paramount Municipal Code makes it clear that the city manager serves as the city's personnel officer. In this capacity, the city manager is the appointing authority for all city employees and also administers all city policies through our personnel manual or our city policy. However, the city council approval is needed for any recommendations involving changes to financial commitments such as pay rates and employee benefit programs. So that said, this item is not intended to seek approval necessarily or at all for hiring an employee, nor is it a request to amend our policy. The following request is an approval for a one-time exception to our city policy impacting a financial commitment. In July 2021, as John mentioned earlier this evening, our city's former finance director retired after nearly 25 years of service with the city. The finance director serves as the chief financial officer for the city and is the city's primary fiduciary, overseeing the city's budget, payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, internal financial controls, and administers regular audits to ensure the city remains fiscally responsible. And I'll take this moment to just, again, thank Clyde for serving in this interim capacity after listing all of those responsibilities. In addition to requiring extensive experience in governmental accounting standards and municipal finance, successful candidates must be highly qualified in management practices because they do oversee a department of over 15 employees. Due to the highly technical and sensitive nature of this position, coupled with the highly competitive labor market, filling the city's finance director vacancy has proven to be very challenging. Just for some perspective, as the writing of this report, I did a query on our on governmentjobs.com, which is the primary search engine for where cities typically post their jobs. There are over 20 finance director vacancies in the state of California, with a dozen just in Southern California. And on average, most of them have been open for over 30 days, which is apparent that citywide, that this position is a very difficult position to fill. After an unsuccessful recruitment administered internally by Human Resources, staff enlisted the services of a professional recruiting firm to conduct a second recruitment that reached out to qualified candidates nationwide. Following a highly competitive recruitment process involving the city manager, the city is prepared to offer the finance director position to a highly qualified and experienced top candidate from that second recruitment. When recruiting seasoned and highly qualified talent with years of experience, especially at an executive level like this, candidates are commonly hesitant to leave their current employer for a number of reasons, including having to lose their sick leave balances with the new employer. As an added negotiating tool to entice this particular prospective highly qualified candidate to our city in an ultra-competitive market and finalize our conditional offer of employment, staff is requesting a one-time exception to the city's sick leave policy to allow the candidate to begin their employment with a sick leave balance of 160 hours. Staff has determined that this classification of finance director will likely be difficult to fill in the absence of such an incentive. The city's employee policy provides that full-time employees shall accrue sick leave at the rate of 96 hours per year of the employee's during the employee's active service, starting with the zero balance. As an added benefit, employees are able to cash out any accumulated unused sick leave in excess of 480 hours maximum on an annual basis at a rate of 50%. The city's sick leave policy complies with state regulations for medical-related leave and is evaluated periodically to ensure market competitiveness when attracting and retaining employees. Approving this action does not have any immediate financial impact to the city or our FY22 adopted budget. Pursuant to city policy, employees may not cash out sick leave until after they exceed 480 hours at a rate of 50% of their pay rate for any unused accrued hours beyond 480 hours, or if they retire from the city. So assuming this prospective candidate does not use any sick leave, the earliest the candidate would be eligible to start taking advantage of the city's added benefit of cash out after starting their employment with 160 hours of banked sick leave would take over 3 years to achieve. So with that, it's recommended that the City Council approve a one-time exception to our city's personnel policy for sick leave to allow a top candidate for the finance director position to begin their employment with the sick leave balance of 160 hours. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have any questions for Andrew?
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
So why are we coming up with that? Where did we get the 160 number?
160 equates to, if you're interested,
whole month.
It equates to about a month. This was an amount that was requested by the candidate, which aligns with their current leave balance from their former or current employer.
I think when we have other employees who have worked to get to where they are, to make that exception for this one time, personally, I don't like it. And if they're coming with 160, I could see coming back with maybe 80. But to say right off the bat you're getting a month of sick time when other employees have to accrue that on top of, I'm pretty sure, a fair salary, I don't like it. I just don't know. I mean, what if she would have said, or he would have said, I want 260 hours. When we're not bending in other areas for other employees, I just can't see doing it at this time.
Okay.
In my opinion. Go
Okay,
ahead.
Patrick. Anybody else?
May I?
Go ahead,
Madam
please.
Mayor? I would just like to say I do understand the situation that we're in. As you guys know, I sit on the Celico board, and the number one issue right now is employees, and not being able to find any in some of the highest paid positions that are out there. And also was recently witnessed a couple of people looking for jobs at almost twice the money that they were making, that their companies would not pay them, and then the minute that they got the offer, their companies countered. So even if we do this, which I think is absolutely necessary given the amount of time that we have spent trying to recruit, the importance of this position, and how scarce employees are today, we could run up against that too, that they're going to turn around and counter. And so hopefully it's enough is what I'm thinking, instead of are we offering enough. Along with Councilmember Gillen, I totally understand the situation of our current employees, but we're in very special times right now due to COVID and what's happened, and we're having to do very special things to survive. So that's just my opinion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So I'll add to this too. I think because you mentioned earlier about, what's going on in the public sector, it's happening in the private sector as well. Everyone's looking for that special person. And I can hear your point, Councilor McGee, and I do. There's, been employees that have been here for a long time, but when you take a look at this position, this is a CFO of a city. This is our financial officer of a city, which is hard to find. You know what I mean? So, and speaking to other cities as well, figuring out what they're doing to recruit people. I mean, right now we need to get creative and figure out how we can get good employees to our city. So even though I understand that, and I think I have to agree with you too, I think we are in hard times where we need to figure out how do we get, good quality candidates over to our city. And right, I had the same question as Lori did. How did the 160 hours come up? Because I wasn't sure if that was just a number, but we did find out that it was a request from the candidate. So I'm asking, is there a way to negotiate that at all, or is this final offer? And is this maybe we speak about later, or?
Well, I hate to get in negotiations publicly.
Sure. Absolutely, understand that.
Yeah, so I could tell you that we could try, but again, I would hate to lose the candidate. That would be that would be my only concern, and it's a grave concern because I would hate to go out for a third time. If we do go out for a third time, here's what we risk. We risk the idea or the reputation that why can't Paramount fill this position? This is the third time they've gone out. Something must be wrong there. So there builds some type of skepticism. So having said that, that would be my main concern if trying to counteroffer is that individual walks.
The right one might be right around the corner, though. You got to look at it both ways. Maybe it's not meant to be.
I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying that the climate does not suggest that.
I understand, but I mean, who's in the driver's seat here? They offered 160. Why? I mean, if they want to come work for the city as the chief financial officer, which is a good position, you got to work a little bit with us too.
Well, I respectfully disagree and just think that we should go with the best offer that we can make and move forward. It's a great candidate, which has been extremely difficult to find. It's an extremely competitive market. Big deal, you get them to come down 40 hours a week's worth. And if you were even lucky to do that, or you risk the candidate. Sometimes negotiating too far can cost you the best of what you're out for. So however the vote goes, that's
Absolutely.
my opinion.
All right, guys, so I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on this.
So moved, Lemons.
Second, Aguayo.
Okay, we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
No.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to our environmental sustainability new business items. We have ordinance number 1156, which is an introduction.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Our environmental sustainability new business items, we kicked this off with the proposed ordinance that would codify the new organic waste state law, and that's SB 1383. Over the last year or so, we've brought to you a number of presentations about organic waste law. There's some strict requirements the state has imposed on all cities throughout California. First requirement is to develop an ordinance, and that's what we're proposing before you tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to our environmental sustainability coordinator here, our public works manager, Wendy Macias.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This is a request for the approval of Ordinance Number 1156, which is a mandatory organic waste disposal reduction. This will adopt enforceable regulations mandating organic waste generators, haulers, and residents to comply with SB 1383 regulatory requirements. These requirements go into effect starting January 1st of 2022. To briefly review, SB 1383 is a state mandate that requires a residential and commercial collection and recycling of all organic waste. Commercial food generators, along with recycling their organic waste, will be required to enter into agreements with food recovery organizations to recover and redistribute any leftover edible food. And so with SB 1383 in place, here's a quick reminder of what the state's implementation timeline will look like. Beginning in 2022, SB 1383 will be in effect and will be implemented citywide for commercial food generators, with the residential component being rolled out in phases. By 2024, the city, through its hauler, CalMet, will begin to cite customers for non-compliance. By 2025, the goal will be that we achieve a 75% reduction by that year, and with the commercial food generating sector working towards reaching the 20% food recovery target set by the state. If cities fail to comply with the new mandate, penalties will be imposed. Based on the state law, CalRecycle can impose up to $10,000 per day penalties to jurisdictions for non-compliance. And so again, for the residential portion of the organics recycling program, CalMet will be rolling out the program to a smaller amount of residential accounts that will allow for changes and modifications to the program before it's implemented citywide. Through this entire process, education and outreach throughout the entire city will be ongoing. Sorry, this is kind of sensitive. For the commercial portion of SB 1383, the rollout and enforcement of the organic recycling regulations will go into effect immediately in 2022 citywide. If you recall, some commercial accounts have already been participating in organics recycling, with many generators managing their organic waste on site. However, a component of SB 1383 that will be new to the commercial generators, like restaurants, supermarkets, and food wholesalers, is a food recovery component. The organics recycling law will require food generators to salvage perfectly edible food that is left over at the end of the day. To ensure participation, food generators will be required to sign agreements with food recovery programs to ensure compliance. Food recovery organizations will take the excess food from the generators and get it into the hands of people dealing with food insecurity. The food recovery portion for commercial food generators currently has limited capacity. And so that's where CalMet will have to focus their energy to help create that capacity and ensure that the food recovery portion for the commercial organics program is in compliance with the state. Additional requirements of the organics recycling law include the city updating its procurement and recycling products policy, enforcing the purchase of recyclable materials from recovered organic products, the monitoring of different components of the organics recycling program, and to ensure compliance throughout the city and enforce participation. To summarize, changes to how Paramount residents will dispose of organic waste are coming January 1st of 2022. SB 1383 regulations for the commercial sector will be effective immediately because of existing capacity and protocols. CalMet concurrently will oversee the phased rollout of SB 1383 for the residential portion of the organics recycling mandate. This will allow CalMet and city staff to work closely with residents and resolve operational hiccups during the pilot phase of the residential organics recycling program. We will also begin the outreach for this new organics mandate and make sure residents know that this is coming sometime next year, as the program will be rolled out in phases. It is recommended that City Council read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 1156 and place it on the December 14, 2021 agenda for adoption. This concludes my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for that. Do we have any questions for her at this time?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, which is, I know that there are a lot of food vendors, because they were stores that I dealt with, that are already doing this. I don't know if you remember, there was an organization that was part of the chamber called California Outreach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had several of the grocery stores in town and all the 7-Elevens. So just really happy that a lot of Paramount businesses are already up and ready for that. I know when the organization left our area, we got lots of calls saying, hey, they're not picking up the food, and they were taking it just like that to homeless shelters and stuff. So I think that they're going to be happy that, you know, it's reinstituted and can partner with people. Are we going to be part of that, helping them find people to partner with?
Come on in.
Yes, actually, CalMet will be taking the lead with this, but yes, part of complying is making sure that as city staff, that we show records of these restaurants, grocery stores, wholesalers actually complying and are matching up with organizations like this. And so it's not, you know, it's not an option. You have to comply, you have to participate. And so we will be playing a part of that. CalMet will be taking the lead, but yes.
Yeah, because I think that might be the most difficult part. I know the organization that was doing it, the facilities wanted it, and the stores wanted to give it, but there was no middleman transferring the food over there. You know, that required a whole, you know, volunteer organization, which is what they were at the time. Thank you.
Sure, and I'd like to point out that Mr. Kelpikoff from CalMet's in the audience too, if there's any questions for Bill.
Thank you, John.
So Wendy, I know it's a residential pilot approach. So do we know, you didn't say a specific date of when this will be rolled out. First, you're going to do some education and then roll it out. Is that how I assume you're going to do that?
Right. So from now until the January 1st start date, we're going to be just putting information out there for everybody. We haven't specifically selected the residential program. Again, that's going to be worked between CalMet and the city. Once that section once that section of the neighborhood is selected, then we will kind of walk them through the process. We will give them kitchen pails. We will say, this is when it's optimal to collect your scraps. You take your pail and you take it to the curb. And then that'll allow CalMet to say, okay, how often should we be picking up? What's working? What isn't working? And so the neighborhood hasn't been selected, but, you know, we should have that ready for the beginning of the year.
Okay, ready to go. How long is the pilot program for?
Again, I am not sure that that has been ironed out. Adriana, do you want to
I
add
think
to that?
we're still working out those details. We're thinking about, determining the locations based on CalMet's routes. We need to take that into account. I can envision doing at least the pilot program in the spring for that particular section.
Right.
And probably, doing maybe 3-month follow-up to see how it's going as we progress and bring in additional sections of the city, because we want to make sure that we work out any kinks that need to be worked out before we roll over to a larger area and then ultimately the entire city.
Are we going to need another mascot besides Pick It Up Pete?
Potentially.
I think that's educational and fun, and I'm just saying.
Our community services director loves mascots.
Right. Just saying. Might be green. We can add to that. So, all right.
So I had a question, if you don't mind. My question was, and you did touch on it. So tell me what it'll look like for a resident. Like, what's the expectation of a resident?
If I may, what we're looking at is not adding a fourth container. basically having the resident put the food scraps in the green container that they're currently using for their green waste.
Okay.
And having CalMet come through, pick that up, take it to their facility, sort it out, and those are the details we're working out with CalMet in terms of where they're taking that material.
So it won't
But it
be
would
an
be on a
extra
weekly
trash
basis.
can.
No, it will not be an additional trash can. Now, what we're looking at is getting kitchen pails so that people can collect it and then take it over to the green cart, dispose of it. Now, some people, and we've gotten some calls already, some people would like to do a backyard composting. And we're looking at putting together a program. The county does have a program where they provide a workshop as to how to do it effectively. And they also have a program where they can purchase the composting bin at a discounted rate. So we're working out those details and working with CalMet to get all of that situated and put together for our residents.
Okay, because you can't throw a plastic trash bag into the green, so that's where the pails would come in.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. All right, with that said, you guys, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1156, and place it on the December 14th, 2021 agenda for adoption.
So move, Lemons.
Second, Aguayo.
All right, so we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. You guys are moving on to our last item, resolution number 21036.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This last item does involve a grant application that will enhance our urban forests, and it'll keep us on track to fulfill a number of our climate action plan goals and help maintain our Tree City USA status. So all good stuff here. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Adriana Figueroa, who will walk you through that. Adriana.
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, as we continue to implement climate adaptation strategies outlined in the recently adopted Climate Action Plan, staff is frequently looking for grant funding opportunities to fund climate resiliency projects. Our Climate Action Plan outlines measures that support urban tree planting, park access, and green infrastructure. This includes increasing the number of trees in the city and conducting outreach to spread awareness on the benefits that are associated with planting shade trees. We have an opportunity to work with a nonprofit organization called the Tree People. Some of you may remember the Tree People from a fruit tree distribution in the past. So we have this opportunity to work with them on a grant application that is funded by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection through the state's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. This grant application will be submitted by the city as the lead agency and will request funding in the amount of $283,496.54 to be spent over a period of 4 years. If the grant application is successful, the city, along with Tree People, will develop the city's first urban forest management plan, or the UFMP. The purpose of the UFMP is to provide the city with a usable document that will guide the community in city's urban forest efforts well into the future. This will include a complete update of the city's tree inventory that currently includes over 7,600 trees. Ultimately, the main goal of the UFMP is to increase citywide canopy cover in order to maximize urban cooling, stormwater mitigation, and air pollution mitigation, while enhancing, of course, the aesthetics of our community. The project will also include community engagement and input, including workshops and surveys. It will include tree planting events and fruit tree distributions that can be made available in conjunction with the city's eco-friendly fair. All in all, we will have the opportunity to plant close to 500 trees citywide during the 4-year span from March of 2022 through March of 2026. With that, it is recommended that the City Council read by title only and adopt resolution number 21036, authorizing the submittal of this grant application. That concludes my presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Adriana. Do we have any questions for Adriana at this time? With that said, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
So move, Lemons.
Second, Aguayo.
Motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo to read by title only and adopt resolution number 21036. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Thank you, Heidi. Okay, with that said, you guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to our comments and committee reports from our council members. I will go ahead and start with Councilmember Guillen to my right.
Okay, just wanted to say it was a really nice veteran celebration on Saturday. Looking forward to the Thanksgiving luncheon for the seniors on Thursday. And I just wanted to say that I had a meeting with Eco Rapid Transit, and they couldn't say enough about Dave and John for helping them get their implementing, getting the young students involved and spreading the word about transit. So they wanted me specifically to thank you guys because they said it was a lot of help. And then I did want to say that I read something from a neighboring city that they developed a sticker that they put in the home window, and it's for people with children with special needs. And the sticker reads something like, we have a special needs child or a special needs person in this home that may not respond to commands or directions. And that's really important. So if the police show up for whatever reason and they're giving commands, that they've been notified that maybe somebody isn't responding to these commands because it's taking them a little bit to process. So I just thought that was a really good idea. And it's just a sticker that the police department passed out in their area for their home windows. So I just thought maybe that would be something good that we could develop as well. And that's all I have.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. And I think too, John, so when Sheriff Villanueva came that day, came, I think we have a presentation in January, right? Regarding that program.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So LA County's going to come present that. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks, Lori. Okay, we'll go on to Councilmember Aguayo.
Okay, so I was at our ad hoc meeting for November, with some of our colleagues with the school district. And one of the things that we, as a city, brought up was our pilot adult softball program. They're not fully on board with it. Their superintendent was going to take it back to the school board, bring us some updates so that we could see, what we can do to bring that, to our city. So that's where we're at with that. So hopefully, we can move forward with that, but we have to see what the school district says on this one because we are partnering with them. So there's that. The other thing, we are collaborating with the school district on a really an aggressive safety campaign because one of the things that Vice Mayor Claire Stallings and I, when we drop off our kids and she drops off her grandkids, we're noticing that parents seem to, always be in a hurry. After school, they're asking kids to just, waving them across the street. So, it was something that, we both brought up. We were talking about it, and, we're working on that with the school district. So I know that at Lincoln, I think within maybe a week, we received a flyer on this neon orange paper with don't do this, don't, make sure your kids are safe because there was a few days where it was really just scary to see, again, kids, especially, being waved across the street and, just kind of weaving in and out of cars. And it was really scary to see that. So that's where we're at with that. And the other thing is I want to really just thank the staff that put together that Veterans Day event. It was really, really nice. I know that the guests that I had with me, today I actually had somebody come by and visit me just to tell me how happy they were and, to be sure that I thanked everybody that put that together. So thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Councilmember Lemons.
I have nothing to report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All right. I just have a couple items I'd like to discuss. Last Monday, City Manager Moreno and I attended the Youth Commission meeting. We got a chance to meet the 15 new students that are representing the city and the Youth Commission. So we're super excited to have them committed and involved in the events. And we're also going to be asking them to come back and present to the council what they're doing and what's going on with the youth in our city. On Tuesday, I attended a Healthcare Hero mixer that was sponsored by the Paramount Chamber and Healthcare Career College, and it was really a great opportunity to get to acknowledge some of the healthcare providers in our community for all the work they've been doing during not just the pandemic, but just in general. Healthcare has been very busy business lately. There's a lot of changes and just keeping doctors happy. So it was really great evening just for them just to come out and just hang out and talk to us about what's going on in their industry and how the city and, you know, how they love being here. I could tell you that a lot of the physicians that are from the city of Paramount love being in the city, and they love their patients, and they love the city. I thought that was really nice to hear. And again, I think the veterans event, you guys, great food, great band, great raffles. The coins were a hit. The coins were a hit. I've been telling Dave I have to ask him for some more coins today. People have been reaching out to me that they want a coin. So we'll make sure that our veterans in Paramount get a coin. And again, you guys, thank you staff tonight for your such efficient reports. You got us in good timing. Everything was really detailed, and we appreciate that. So with that said, John, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few things. Air monitors, as you know, we entered into an agreement. The council approved that agreement with a private consultant to do our own air monitoring after AQMD had left out. So just a little update on that. There was a bit of a delay in getting the air monitors up and running, and that is due to the fact that the agreements that we needed to secure with the different agencies that are involved with the monitors, there's a delay in getting those agreements signed. So we had to kind of pivot a bit. For instance, rather than having an air monitor across the street at the hospital parking lot, we asked AQMD if it would be as effective to have it on the rooftop here at City Hall. And AQMD concurred. They said absolutely, because there's been a delay in getting an agreement with Kindred Hospital to have the monitor in their back parking lot. I think it has to do with the ownership and the tenant. Kindred doesn't own the property, so it's another firm that owns the property. So in any case, I wanted just to get the thing up and running, so at least we have some coverage there. So that monitor's been up. We'll be taking our consultant will be taking the first results to the lab on Thursday, so we should have the readings from that air monitor up pretty soon. We're still negotiating with Edison on getting the memorandum of understanding to post the monitors on a couple of their poles throughout town. I hope to have that MOU completed. Our side's done. It's just going through the channels at Edison, hopefully within the next month or two. That's just the delay that they take. In the meantime, we have installed our own poles on the sidewalk at different areas. Again, these areas have been approved by AQMD. So if these poles are just as effective as Edison poles, we'll go with those. But just for temporary now, we will have those installed hopefully by next week with the brackets. So those will be out and about. And lastly, with the air monitor at Lincoln School, we just got approval from the school district for the agreement to go onto their property to put the monitors at Lincoln School. So that was approved by the superintendent yesterday. We signed it, and we're waiting their signature back to us. So hopefully that'll be very soon. Just a reminder, I'm sure you all have this on your calendar, all the holiday events coming up just as soon as the senior Thanksgiving is done this week, and then the regular Thanksgiving holiday, we're in full swing as we come back from that. And that's about it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for those updates. And yeah, I guess we'll see everybody on Thursday at the senior luncheon. And with that said, I think we'll go ahead and we're ready to adjourn this meeting to December 4th, 2021, beginning at 6. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you.
It's December 14th.
Oh, did I not say December 14th? To adjourn the meeting on December 14th, 2021?
Perfect.
Beginning at 6 p.m. There you go, Heidi. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you.